Hello and welcome to Finding Your Collaborative Edge with Anni, Townend and Lucy Kidd, the show in which we explore with leaders what it means to truly collaborate and how to find your collaborative edge. Today, we are delighted to be in conversation with Emma Edwards, Deputy CEO of Spotlight, Young Onset Parkinson's, and Dawn Harding, Trustee of Spotlight YOPD. Welcome, Emma.
Hiya.
Welcome, Dawn. Hi. We're really looking forward to sharing with listeners more about you, the charity, and why collaboration is so important to you in raising awareness of young onset of Parkinson's. Emma, it would be really good to start with you and to hear more about the charity, particularly for listeners who've perhaps not heard of young onset of Parkinson's and certainly may not have heard of the charity. And a listener may be somebody with the young onset of Parkinson's or a family member or somebody who would like to get involved. So it'd be lovely to hear more about the charity. And then, Dawn, I'll come to you and ask you what it was about the charity that drew you to it, or what in your life and experience had you want to get involved. So welcome to both of you.
Thank you. Thank you for having us. It's a delight to be here. I'm new to the Deputy CEO role of Spotlight YOPD. I've been doing it for a couple of months now. I was a trustee previous, Parkinson's specialist nurse by trade. So it's something that is very close to my heart. I've been doing it for about 15 years now. So when I was asked to become a trustee, I was absolutely delighted, especially because it is young onset people. So Parkinson's, if you don't know what Parkinson's is a movement disorder that can make you very stiff, can make you very trembly, can make you very slow in your movements, can affect your balance. And then there are things that you can't see. So there's sort of about 40 non-motor symptoms as well, which issues with sleep, with constipation, mood. So it's a really complex condition. It often affects people over the age of 65. There's about 153,000 people with Parkinson's in the UK. And we don't quite know how many of those people are under the age of 50. And I think that because we don't know that, probably haven't given this community a great deal of attention over the years. So Spotlight YOPD was founded several years ago by our now patron, Gania Edwards, when she got newly diagnosed with Parkinson's. I think what she found was there wasn't a great deal of information about Parkinson's and how it affects younger people. She didn't really know anybody else. I think when she went to the groups, the Parkinson support groups, they tended to be of an older age. She was kind of looking for a community. So she set up this charity to find that. So it's to raise awareness that Parkinson's can affect people at any age, and that people under the age of 50 aren't immune to that, unfortunately. It's to build a community so people feel better supported. And we're also interested in other things like genetic testing for people that are under 50 and may have Parkinson's. We're interested in other aspects of research and just kind of bringing people together, because I think with that comes a lot of strength and a lot of power and a lot of empowerment. So I absolutely love this charity, and we're doing some really great work at sort of continuing to build on those aims.
That's really wonderful to hear, Emma, and that bringing people together makes you stronger, raises awareness and actually makes you stronger. And I know today we're going to be talking about those partnerships, those strong relationships and collaborations with you and Dawn. But before we get into that, Dawn, it would be really good to hear from you as to why you were drawn to and got involved with the charity.
Hello, everybody, and thank you for taking time to listen. What was my motivation? Well, I guess having spoken to you before, Annie, you'll know that something has to have personal resonance for me to invest time in it. And there are two elements. And the first is a family-related one, because a close member of family was diagnosed with young onset Parkinson's last year in February. Last year, so just about a year now. And as I started to look round to try and assist them. I found very much what Emma talked about. There was a lot of images and a lot of things, very, very clinical, etc. But I was thinking, how can I help? He went along to a local Parkinson's group after diagnosis and found very much what Emma explained, really, that there were a lot of older people there with quite developed symptoms. And apart from just the shock of being diagnosed with, a neurological condition like this, a degenerative condition, actually dealing with the mental side of that and thinking, he works full time, he's a new dad. How do I deal with all of that? And naturally, as a close family member, you want to find out and see what you can do to help. And I stumbled across Spotlight. In fact, actually, bizarrely, it's the other reason that was a motivation that kind of pointed me in that direction. Because I know 4 retired firefighters who have young onset Parkinson's disease. But Gary Brown, who was a friend and colleague, worked at Buckinghamshire Fire and also London Fire, pinged me a note saying, have you seen this charity? They're looking for a new trustee, Dawn. And if you do it, because I think you'd be really great at it, because you're retiring, you'll have more time. I thought, hang on a minute, I know quite a lot of people with young onset Parkinson's disease. In my situation, they're all guys because I've worked in a fairly predominant male industry. But I really wanted to find out more. And so made some inquiries, chatted to the chair of the charity and also the chief exec, Carl Beach, look him up. Then thought, well, I will have more time. This is important. And advocating and shining a spotlight on something is something that I know I can help with because I've done it before.
Thank you, Dawn. Thank you to you both. And I do remember you saying to me previously, Dawn, that things have to have a personal resonance for you to really connect with them and then campaign for them. You suggested that maybe there's a correlation there between working in the fire service and onset Parkinson's.
Emma's our technical professional and she'll probably expand on it, but over probably only the last decade, there's been a lot more health screening of firefighters to establish what all that heat and contaminant exposure does to you. And we've started to explore post-Grenfell Tower, the connections with blood-related cancers. And in America, the work's sort of more advanced. And they've started to develop some scientific basis for that. But equally, one of the things that's being explored, I think, around the world with Parkinson's is why these things trigger. And contaminants has been suggested as a potential trigger. And actually, I spent a bit of time chatting to one of the other trustees, a chap called Matt Eagles. Again, look him up, fascinating guy. He was diagnosed at the age of 7 as a child and strongly believes that there was a chemical contamination, which, was related to that. I don't know if that's proved beyond reasonable doubt, as it were, but it made me think, actually, there could be something in this. And then I started to try and look for research, and there isn't a lot. So I'm currently working outside of the spotlight, but with the firefighters charity to see if it's something they would like to explore and see if some of the other people that are involved in some of the health research would like to explore.
It's sort of since the 70s, really. It's the royal we. There's thought to have been a connection with sort of environmental toxins and people developing Parkinson's. It's been a tough one to prove worldwide, but there are certain cases around the world where there is clusters of people in communities that have Parkinson's, sort of farming communities in the Midwest, and farmers have got this sort of high risk of Parkinson's as well. But it's proving it. So actually, Dawn, someone to link in with that. So there is the rock god of neurologists is someone called Dr. Bas Bloom. So he's based over in the Netherlands, and he wrote a book alongside some other cracking neurologists called Ending Parkinson's. And one of the things that they want to do is to look at pesticides and ban basically the nasty ones. So it's a fantastic book to read, but he's a fantastic link to have as well. There's lots of potential reasons why Parkinson's happen. Sometimes it's a genetic cause, possibly, that increases your risk. Sometimes, do you know what? We just don't know. Equally, as many farmers and people that have worked outside with chemicals, I've got bank managers and teachers that have never stepped foot on a farm or sort of feel that they've been exposed. I think it's one of the things that makes this condition particularly interesting, because I don't think we've got all the answers yet.
Thank you both. Well, we've already put a spotlight on collaboration, and we'd like to ask you about collaboration, about the partnerships and the collaborations that are so critical to raising awareness of this condition.
The work that Annie and I do together is all about helping people come together. We have a strong belief that we are better together and that we can be and do and bring so much more when we're together. And we already started to think about the power and the value of community and partnership and collaboration. So we wanted to really ask each of you a bit more about your experience around that, and to ask you the question, what does true collaboration really mean to you? And perhaps if we come to Emma first and then hear from Dawn, what does true collaboration mean?
Ooh, true collaboration. I mean, certainly having those shared goals, that helps massively when everyone is on the same page and we can kind of work towards that common goal. People turning up, that's especially when you're working in a sort of a voluntary capacity where there is no sort of pay slip at the end of the month. So you're kind of working on goodwill. So when people turn up and have this passion to achieve something together, that certainly ticks a lot of boxes for collaboration for me.
Thanks, Emma. That one of the things that we tend to find is that passion and that commitment and that wanting to be there, wanting to show up, wanting to offer something makes such a difference when you can tap into that and harness it together. Dawn, how about for you?
So I worked in the public sector for a long time, but I've worked with a lot of voluntary sector organisations as well. And I've worked in the private sector. And one of the things that I am really keen on doing is drawing out the symmetry, because I think it helps emphasise that mutuality, that common goal or shared goal that Emma was talking about, but also expanding it beyond the natural definitions of boundary. So, in a situation like this, and we're chatting about Parkinson's, what I've already seen is the importance of involvement of research and clinical treatment and people with lived experience and organisations that are involved in social care as well, and maybe eventually preventative measures as well. But right here and right now, what I've learned, even in the month and a half that I've been a trustee, is the real importance of listening to people with lived experience, because it really makes you realise, the breadth and the importance of having conversations and varied networks. And even if you talk to one network about it, they come at it from a different perspective. And it's made me really think when I was talking about firefighters and potentially contamination research. Be curious, always be curious.
Yeah, it's great that you say that. We always begin with curiosity, that willingness to listen and also to ask and to explore and to understand. So when we're helping people bring more collaboration, it's always around that, where's the opportunity to connect, to understand, and to really get curious about what the opportunities are, what the possibilities are, and what the unknowns are, and the difficulties and the challenges, and to get really curious and lean into that to explore together.
And our other two things that we bring, which I think you've also spoken to, both of you, is the importance of care. So we talk about curiosity, care and courage, but the care that being involved and showing up for something that you really care about, especially when working in and with a charity, that usually people will work in and with a charity because they care, they resonate with something. And for you, Emma, what made you want to care and bring your curiosity to becoming a Parkinson's nurse, a specialist?
I've been a qualified nurse for about 28 years. And so my background is mental health nursing, actually. So I was running a residential home many years ago, and the local Parkinson's nurse used to turn up to review her patients. And it was so interesting. And she was talking about all the different medications and the different stages of Parkinson's. And then one day she turned up and she said, "This is the last time you'll see me. I'm leaving. I'm retiring. Why don't you go for that job?" And I was like, "I can't do that. No, I'm a mental health nurse. This job is a job for general nurses." And she went, "Do you know what? Just put your application form in if you're interested." And I spent a day with a Parkinson's nurse just to check that I liked it. And she was doing a clinic, and it was so great to see people and their families coming in, and they were making a real difference to somebody's journey in this really complicated condition. So I went for the job. I just threw my hat in. I didn't really think I'd get it. And then I did. I've got it now. And it's been the most interesting journey. There are so many passionate clinicians and researchers out there that it just keeps me hooked. And just to kind of jump on with what Dawn was saying, I think 15 years ago, I don't think the person with the condition's voice was very loud, actually. And certainly when we were planning interventions and service changes, I don't think we ever asked the patients, what works for you? What would you like this to look like? And then I joined a different Parkinson's team after about 8 or 9 years and worked with a consultant who had always been very collaborative with the people with the condition. And we developed a new way of working. We wanted to develop a new service. And she said, "Come along to the workshop." And it was the first time that people with Parkinson's, their family, clinicians were all sitting around the same table. And I just thought, why have I not done this before? This is just so obvious, because all the answers were there. But I did have colleagues that said, "I don't want to be involved in this because people are going to know that we're struggling, or, we're not on the top of our game." And I thought, they know that. They're struggling, we're struggling. And together we could get the answers, we could work together. So that was such an eye-opener. So every time, I've developed a service or changed something, we've always had that input from people with the condition in their families. And to be honest, the script writes itself from there then. You don't have to second guess, what would they like? And it's something that attracted me to this charity, actually, that it was very much the person with Parkinson's leading from the front. And in the NHS, that's rarely seen. So it was something that I was curious about, actually, when the chair phoned me to say, "What do you think about this charity? Would you like to be part of it?" And I thought, yeah, go on. I've been a very accidental and reluctant leader over the years. I think I'm putting my hand up for a cup of coffee and then suddenly get promoted to deputy CEO. And I've loved the collaboration between professional clinician and the person with the condition. It's just been incredible, and it's completely changed my outlook on nursing as well.
That's such a brilliant example where people are in conversation, but also where people have the courage to be vulnerable and to say, "We are struggling," and how important that is so that we can help each other. And that becomes part of the shared goal that you talked about, is how can we help each other together, and without knowing what each other are struggling with. It's very hard to help each other, and it does take courage to do that, and curiosity and care.
Yeah, definitely. So it's something that I certainly, it was a big lesson for me. Even after, do this job for 25 years, and you think, surely I can't learn anything new. But yes, of course, every day is a school day, isn't it? So,
well, especially in the research, Emma, that you're talking about, and Dawn, and you have both mentioned names of people. And in fact, today on our podcast, we were hoping to have Gaynor with us, and she wasn't. She was struggling today and not able to join us. And I would like to thank her for being part of this conversation, even though she isn't with us in person, because I know she is a real voice and shining a light.
She's based in Sussex, so although we meet as a charity virtually, she's the one person I've actually physically met, as well as Nikki, the current chair. And in chatting to her and her unpacking her story, but also how it affects her life, what she also talked about as a young onset, going through is that different phase of your life and adapting to the condition. So she was caring for her mum, as we do at this sort of younger age. She had other family commitments, work commitment, things like going through the menopause. Emma will do the professional clinical side of this, but again was saying that the medication simply didn't work for her when she was suffering from the menopause. She's a communication specialist as well, and so she's able to really articulate that journey, which brings it to life. And I think Emma said it, and she's so right. One of the strengths of this charity is it's patient-led. Our chief exec has YOPD. Many of the trustees all have familiar sort of contact family that have the condition. And I think that does bring a real difference.
It's that humanness, that human element, that being able to not just show up, but show up as you are in terms of what's really going on for you. What are you struggling with? What are you noticing? What do you need help with? How are you feeling? So all of those things that you're talking about there in terms of what works really well, it is that humanness. We notice time and time again that when we can invite people to really bring their humanness to their work and to each other, then we can create those strong and deep connections, which then help us build the trust, be more courageous, be more caring, and be more curious together to really do something much bigger and much brighter together.
I think that's right, Lucy. I think there's another dynamic here for me. I was a professional. Collaboration was actually not only part of my job, it was a statutory obligation. This is a charity. We don't have any paid staff. Everybody, volunteers, trustees, company secretaries, they are all volunteers. And many of them are also have the condition. So that care that you talk about, we have to really manage our expectations. My preference is always would have been for today to let a YOPDer speak for themselves and present their story. But sometimes we have to be brave enough, even though that doesn't resonate with us personally, to step in and help them shine a spotlight, because they may be having an off day, or, sorting out new drugs or new dosage, or having something else going on. And for them to know that we'll do that, and to have that mutual trust and respect in each other, to step into that space, I think is really important.
Yeah, and a great way of truly collaborating, being able to give a voice to someone who isn't able to be in the conversation themselves for whatever reason.
I didn't appreciate as much as I do already about young onset of Parkinson's. And Lucy, this isn't something we spoke about ahead of our conversation, but something I became aware of through your personal experience of your mum.
Thank you, Annie. Well, my mum, she had a stroke when she was just 32. We're the young family. I was 8. My sister was just 6 months old. My brother was in the middle, just 4 years old. And it was undiagnosed overnight. So by the time she got medical attention, we were living in South Africa at the time. It left her paralysed down the right-hand side. She's amazing. She's alive and well, not without her own health challenges now. Just turned 76 and still as determined and stubborn as ever. And, I think because of that, she was so determined that this wasn't going to define her identity and become her. She fought and battled and gave a lot of support to other young people because who were experiencing the same, because she had a similar experience to that you've both spoken about. All the support was tailored towards an older group, an older demographic, not to someone young experiencing that.
Thanks, Lucy, for sharing it. Just what you were both sharing, Emma and Dawn, resonated with me and with your experience, Lucy, and it felt important to shine a light on your own experience, albeit a different experience.
Another connection.
Yes, yeah. What has helped you both find your collaborative edge, Emma and Dawn? You know, when we talk about collaborative edge, we're very much thinking of all that is possible, creativity, people feeling safe to be able to have conversations, to express difference.
I have been involved in quite a lot of collaborations within work and outside of work. What I've picked up along the way is absolutely being able to harness all of the passion that's around a topic and finding a way to crystallize it, to make it become a thing. And in some instances, that means advocacy. And I'm talking political advocacy and lobbying for change. In some instances, that's creating a voice, making sure there's a vehicle to talk about an issue. And I've done a lot of that with water safety historically. And sometimes it's just about spending a bit of time to demonstrate to people that this is something you care about and you are really invested in listening to what the issues are, taking their ideas and then turning that into a tangible thing. So already Emma and I'm a month in, but we're collaborating on some enhanced branding and some leaflets and a newsletter because she knows all the stuff and other colleagues and trustees and volunteers know the stuff. I know I can try and help. So it's recognising the part you can play.
Emma, what about you?
So I suffer with the most terrible imposter syndrome, absolutely crippling bouts of it. In those times, I think, why would anyone want to work with Emma Edwards? She's an idiot. But I also know through experience that passes, and I'm not an idiot generally. It's being brave to ask, would people like to collaborate with me on a project? And I've generally found that if I've got enthusiasm, if I've got that passion, I can talk most people into joining me now on a journey. Sometimes it's picking those people as well that know that you have your back at those moments of doubt in your leadership. I'm a busy nurse, I'm a mum, wife, I work with the Royal College of Nursing, I work with the Neurology Academy, I'm a busy person. So someone in that team or will just step up occasionally to kind of help out, but it's asking for help. It's really difficult. And being a specialist nurse, although I work within a wider team, I work by myself. Sometimes I don't see colleagues for weeks on end in the flesh. So to ask for help, or would you like to be part of my project? I've got a really good idea, can be a challenge, but I know by asking for help, often people want to help. So I suppose it comes back to having that courage, isn't it? About putting yourself out there, making yourself a little bit vulnerable. But in the most part, it's played off well.
So your passion and your purpose is inspiring, and I'm not in the least bit surprised that people want to collaborate with you and help you and be part of what you're up to. And something you said earlier about showing up, that people show up for you because they believe in what you're doing, and the fact that you've got people who believe in you when you're doubting yourself. I know for myself, without people like Lucy believing in me when I'm wobbling and encouraging me, I wouldn't have the courage and the confidence and the resilience to lead in the way that I do. And it is the belief and encouragement of others, for sure, and people stepping up for us when we're not feeling it and or encouraging us to feel it and remind us that we can do it, and helping us in that way and being open and honest with us.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of bravery in leadership, and sometimes that's about putting yourself forward. Sometimes that's about showing vulnerability. Sometimes that's just about saying, I don't know, but I'll try and find out. Throughout my career, and I worked for nearly 40 years full time in different jobs, I've seen some fantastic leaders, people that I really admired, were not just those that were good at their job. They would push their own boundaries and help others to do the same. We often talk in fire leadership terms of not only being able to put up ladders, but also drop the ladder to help somebody else climb. It's a fire analogy, but it works.
Oh, I love that.
It's a lovely analogy. Yeah, because that's all about lifting each other up, isn't it? And looking out for each other. And when we think about team working and finding our collaborative edge within a team, it is about having each other's backs, lifting each other up, knowing that some days I might be the stronger one and other days it'll be one of you that is the stronger one, and I will need you to lift me up. As we come to the close of our conversation, we have a question to close with, but is there anything else that you would like to speak to, give voice to, around shining a light on young onset of Parkinson's and the work that you're doing?
I would like to shine a light, not only we've talked about the people that have got the condition, but on the fantastic work that's being done in the charity sector in this sphere. So Parkinson's UK, Cure Parkinson's, YOPD networks, local community groups, a fantastic podcast called Movers and Shakers, underpinned by the NHS as a bedrock in the UK. And I've had a lot of experience with the NHS over the last couple of years, and I think we should be very grateful for the NHS in the UK. It is a fantastic entity and there are some very brilliant people working in it. So I'd just like to shine a light on the charities and also on the NHS.
Thanks, Dawn. Emma, what about you?
What I love about Spotlight YOPD is this sense of building a community, not just for people with Parkinson's in their family, but to raise that awareness around that with clinicians, with people that don't necessarily work with people with Parkinson's, the researchers around as well. And it's just a fantastic sense of this striving to understand it better, this curiosity, to make lives just that little bit better, just to know that you're not alone with this, because I think we've got power in community. So this is why I love Spotlight YOPD, and this is why I think it's so important to kind of have these conversations.
Fantastic. Thank you both. And our final question really is, what are your 3 key messages that you would like to share with listeners to invite them to find their collaborative edge?
Certainly got one. I think it's not to be afraid of technology, because this has opened up so much more collaboration for me, this remote kind of working on Zooms and Google Chats. So I think it's to not be afraid of that, because that opens up the world to you.
To an even bigger community.
Bigger community, absolutely.
Lovely. What about you, Dawn?
Stretch yourself, because although you may be a professional in a field, you can add an awful lot to small charities as a volunteer. So you might not be surprised that I'm on the hunt for new volunteers to help support Spotlight. And people that have IT skills, people that have communication skills, digital skills, financial skills. I don't know, but there are a lot of fantastic professionals out there. So please stretch yourself. And if you are thinking about volunteering, please add Spotlight YOPD to your consideration list. The second thought for collaboration is, and we've talked about it a lot, don't think you've got the answers if you're professionals. Absolutely link in with lived experience. And, we've both spoken about that, and you spoke about it as well, Lucy, because you cannot pay for that. You cannot qualify in that. You will hear
and understand with a greater depth. So absolutely connect with people who have lived experience. And that's true of all sorts of collaborations. And the last one is have fun. Seriously, you might be working on a really difficult thing, and you might be working with people that have challenges, or people that, but living well with things and enjoying what you do. Live your life and leave a little bit behind maybe, but try and enjoy your collaborations and the people that are within them and the richness that exists.
Wonderful. Thank you both for adding your richness to this conversation. Dawn, you mentioned there you're on the hunt for people. Can you remind listeners how best to get in touch with both of you and with the charity, either because they would like support from the charity for themselves, for a family member, or because they'd like to be involved in some way by offering a skill?
So we've got a great website, haven't we? So if you Google us, Spotlight YOPD, you will find us there with our details to get in touch. We also have a fantastic Facebook page, which is under Spotlight YOPD as well. There's a closed group as well, so a very private group run by our trustees as well with Parkinson's, where that community is fostered. But we also have sort of a more broader presence on social media, on Instagram, on TikTok. Carl Beach, our CEO, loves a good old TikTok. So he's really worth a follow.
And on LinkedIn, and you can follow the charity on LinkedIn, but also Emma and I are both on LinkedIn. So if there's other stuff that you want to collaborate on out there in the wider world, then happy to make contact.
Fantastic. Well, we absolutely encourage listeners to do that. The invitation is there from you. And also, I believe Gaynor Edwards is on LinkedIn as well.
Thank you, Emma, and thank you, Dawn, so much for sharing your stories and experiences and encouragements with us and with the listeners. Thank you to you, the listener. If you would like to find out more about our collaboration equation, please do visit our website, collaborationequation.com, where you can reach out to us as well by email. We look forward to hearing from and to connecting with you. You can follow us on LinkedIn too. And please do share and subscribe to our podcast, Finding Your Collaborative Edge. And a big thank you to Matt at Brown Bear Studios for producing our show, and to Coco and Schmogus Media for helping us share it with you through the marketing. Thank you. And thank you, Annie.
Thank you, Lucy.